So if you're a cheapskate like me and you don't want to spend an arm and a leg on production planning software or dashboard software for your business, you can actually create your own for free using Google Sheets. I've created spreadsheets similar to this for my business. It's a little more sophisticated. I've simplified it in this spreadsheet to illustrate some of the principles, but it's actually quite impressive in terms of capabilities, functionality, flexibility, customizability. I'm going to give you some context for this spreadsheet. We're assuming that Widget Co. produces widgets, right? And we've got a list of clients here in this first column. Second column is the number of widgets we produce for each of those clients. We're assuming that every 30 days we repeat the production cycle for each client. I pre-populated information, for these first two clients. Again, these are all customizable. If you want to, keep track of different data for your clients, you can add as many columns as you want or change them however you want. We're also assuming that we have 5 processes in the overall production process or cycle. And, each process requires a certain number of days before it can advance to the next process. In the next section, we've got basically 18 months worth of dates for each process. So this block here is all of our process 1 dates for the next 18 months. You could do 6 months, you could do a year, you could do 5 years. I mean, whatever you want. We just like to be able to plan out into the future. So process 2 dates, 3, 4, 5. You may think, oh man, this is a lot of data entry. It's actually not nearly as complicated as you'd think. Really, there's only one column here, this first deadline date column that has a hard-coded date. So you can see right here, 7/12/2020. The rest of these dates in this deadline date block and all of these blocks going forward are formulas. So the next deadline date for this client is just 30 days. You can see this in the formula bar, 30 days after this date right here. And then you just drag this over as far out as you want, and it'll pre-populate all those dates. And once you have your hard-coded deadline dates for all your clients, you just do this first formula to get your next deadline date 30 days out for each client. And then you can actually highlight all of these all the way down. And there's a little blue box here in the bottom right that you can click and drag all the way over, and it'll populate all these dates. So really, within a couple of minutes, you can have all of these date blocks completed. All of the process dates, so process 5, it kind of works backwards off of the deadline date. So we take the deadline date, and then we move backward to get our process dates for the previous processes, if that makes sense. So process 5 date, it's a formula, it's a workday formula, if you're familiar with that. It's taking the deadline date that corresponds with that cycle, and then it's using this 019. I'll show you where that is. That is this right here. It's referencing the number of days that it needs to be in process 5, and then this calendar info reference here. And it will help if you have some experience with formulas or some familiarity with spreadsheets. Otherwise, some of this may seem Greek, but hopefully you've got a little bit of domain expertise. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. So anyway, this calendar info, if I go to this tab, this is just referencing our holidays. So we just input our holidays, company holidays where we're not working. And this formula here, let me just minimize this so I can go back to that. this formula there references our holidays. So it knows, hey, if there's a holiday listed, I'm not going to put that as a process date because nobody's going to be here to do it. So that's what this workday formula is. And all of these process 1 dates, all the process 2 dates, process 3 dates, process 4, those are process 5. All of those are workday formulas that reference the process after it, the number of days in that process, and then our holidays. And they're all formula. It's all the same formula. And so once you have, the formulas, just basically one formula input for each of these blocks, you can just click and drag and it'll populate all the rest. So really, in just a matter of minutes, you have all of these date blocks populated, if that makes sense. So at the very end of this, we've got next process 1 date. This basically, all of these are formulas as well. So this one here, the next deadline date, because everything works backwards based on the deadline date. This is an array formula. So it's basically saying, hey, look at this whole deadline date block for this customer and tell me, this min is tell me the next date in the future from today, and then give that to me. So right here, since 10:30 is our next closest date in the future, it populates that. And then all of these are just formulas. Again, they're the workday formulas that hinge off of the deadline date. And then process 4 hinges off this process 5 date. Process 3 hinges off the process 4 date, and just works backward accordingly. So that is our cycle info tab. So now, if we go to this production schedule tab, you can see I've got a couple days worth of production listed. So right here in this left-hand column, we've got the date, and then at the beginning or at the top of each new date, we've got a little ticker for each process, and these are formulas. If you look, they're array formulas, and it looks pretty complicated. It looks messy, but basically what it's saying is count all of the cells underneath until the next blank cell, and if there's something written in this cell next to it, then basically count the number of empty cells. I'm probably explaining this horribly. It makes sense to me. How about that? So you can see this says 0, but if I were to basically clear these out, there's 3. So let me do that over. So this formula here, where the 3 is saying, okay, count all the cells beneath that have a value in it, right, until the next blank. And so you can see there's 3 cells directly beneath, that have values in them, and then the 4th cell is blank. So it's saying 3. And then the next part of the formula is saying if there is anything input in here, then just count the number of empty cells of the cells that we're counting here. So once I initial off here, it ticks down, and then I have 0, right? And same thing here. If I delete those, now it gives me 4. And these are color coded, so anything less than 4, I'm sorry, 0 is going to be green. Anything from 1 to 3 is yellow. Anything above 3 is red. So just kind of gives you an idea of how much production you have, based on the number of cycles that still need to be completed. Over here, if you want to track productivity, individual productivity, in a dashboard, which we'll go over in a different video. This is mainly just for the production scheduling. and populating the production schedule. This will come into play. So watch the dashboard video to see kind of how this works and how it feeds into the dashboard feature. But if we want to add more days to the production schedule, we have a production schedule builder tab. And this is identical, as you can see, to production schedule. Like you've got the exact same columns, same information. This, though, we're not doing any initials on. This is strictly a production builder tab. So we've got a drop down here in the first date. I'm just going to go to the date that I want. So 10/19 is there. Say I want to do the next day, 10/20. All of this information changes based on this date in the drop down. And how that works is if I click on this first process one client, it's actually a formula. Nothing underneath is a formula because this right here, this filter formula dictates what's underneath. So basically what it's saying in all this gobbledygook is I want you to look in that process one date block in this client info tab, right? So if we go over there, this is the process one date block. So that filter formula is saying, look in this whole block here and give me all of the clients that have this date at all in that whole block, and then it populates those down here, right? It's the same thing with process 2, process 3. This NA just means that there's nothing in process 3 for that date. So we've got 10/20, and if we look here on the production schedule, 10/19 was the last date we had populated. So we want to do 10/20. So what you're going to do is you're going to highlight from row 2 down to the bottom of where the longest client list is, right? So client 75. So process 1 has the most in production of all those processes. We're going to copy it. We're going to go to our production schedule. I'm going to skip 2 rows so that I have a blank row between each date and a row where I can paste this in here in a second, which I'll show you. I'm going to paste what I just copied, and it's really important to click on this little drop down here and select paste values only. Otherwise, it pastes the filter functions and this drop down menu, which messes up the functionality of these formulas right here. So we don't want to do that. You can see that this formula turned into NA. It's because these formulas do not like NA. So really what NA means is there's nothing there. So I'm just going to delete it, right? And then you can see that this turned back into an 18, into a real number. Okay. All of these formulas here are relative references. So I can actually just copy that and just paste directly in there. I don't want to do the paste values only on this because I want the actual formulas to stay in there. But as you can see, when I pasted that in, these numbers automatically changed based on what was beneath, if that makes sense. So that's how that works. So then, if I wanted a whole week, I'd just select 10/21, wait for these dates to change, and highlight down to this client 72 because that's the one with the longest list. I'd copy it, go to my production, skip 2 rows, paste it, select paste values only. I'd get rid of my NAs here. I'd come up here, I'd copy this header row, just paste it right in there, leaving the formulas, not doing anything with this drop-down menu. And you can see easily how we can add days to the production schedule and see, weeks at a time or however, far in advance you want to see what the production looks like. The last thing for this video is this production summary page. So if for whatever reason I wanted to have like a cover sheet or some physical piece of paper, to follow, uh, through the different steps of production, this kind of is a summary for each client for that particular production cycle. So it's got all your process dates, your deadline date, your contact info. These are all formulas. They're VLOOKUP formulas that reference this client info information. So if you remember, I populated the first two clients with this information. So if we go to the summary page, this is client 2 selected. If I select client 1, this information will change based on what's listed in this tab for that client. And let's just pick one that doesn't have any information. You can see none of this information was populated, so that's why there's nothing populated, but the dates are. So that just gives you a little summary idea of what's going on with that client for that cycle. If you want like a physical piece of paper following the physical flow of the goods going through production. So that is our video on battery's running low, on production schedule, populating production schedule, kind of automating your production schedule. The next video we'll talk about client calendars, so we can actually have a yearly calendar. I'll just show you a little preview. An actual calendar that shows all of the production dates that you can email to your clients, so they know where things are in production at any given day during the month. So we'll go over that next video, and then the last video will be on dashboard. So we've actually got a little production dashboard that pulls from all of our sign-off tabs and gives us a real-time look into how we're doing, and you can check it from anywhere. So anyway, that's coming up next. But hope you found this video helpful. Again, it's helpful to have some experience with spreadsheets in order to understand the formulas and how those are working. And anyway, I hope it's a benefit to you. Take care.